We were thinking about using that slogan. Ended up changing at the last minute.
Marcus Williams. I'm a professional illustrator based here in Atlanta. Illustrate comics, fan art, and also children's books and stuff like that. You know, happy stuff.
So pretty. I'm Carrie Tupper. I write for a little web comic called Kamikaze. I guess here, because you can totally see that. But I'm the writer and one of the colorists on it. And take it away, Havana.
Yes, my name is Havana, and I am the lead character artist for Kamikaze. Kamikaze's been running for about 4 years, with
No.
2 episodes out.
We're not even on a 3rd year yet.
Okay.
It just feels that long.
Okay, so the first question I have for the panel, each of you is contributing in your own way as far as making sure that there is a representation of people of color in the medium of comics in particular. Do any of you yet feel like you were forced to kind of create your own space versus going to the big 3 companies and saying, this is a product that I have, would you be interested in publishing it? Anybody jump in?
That's a really good question.
I don't know if they forced us. I guess Marcus and I can speak with him from this standpoint. We don't expect anybody else. Like, it's 2000, I'm looking at my watch. It's 2017, and we don't expect anybody else to do it because it would have been done by now. So it's not necessarily that we were forced. We've been working in this lane for some years now. So at this point, it's like we're going to do it, and if the people want it, that's great. We really don't have a desire to go to like the big 3 or anything.
Really? Do you think that's because of lack of creative control once you go to the dark side, as it were?
See, I don't even view it. I just think that our lane, like, I guess we've had some experience with publishing and working with publishers and all of that, and the amount of like money and things that they're siphoning out, it's not conducive to us trying to make a living off of it.
Gotcha.
So I think that's just as big as anything for us. Of course, we have total creative control, but I don't. That doesn't factor in as much as us just trying to control and own our process.
I would say that it's, and I've said it before, which is you can't get mad at somebody else for not creating what you want with their money. It's their money, man. They can make whatever characters they want. They can use the characters however they want, publish as many stories that don't include the characters you like as much as they want. And at the end of the day, if you're mad about it, go to another restaurant or eat somewhere else, or create your own food. If you need that content, if you really want that content, if you're yammering with a whole group of people that all agree that, hey man, we should have this kind of content, then make it happen. Pool your resources together, find tools, find resources, and make it happen. It's no one else's job to cater to your interest. Mm-hmm. If you have an interest, if you have a passion, you feel that story should be made, then make it. And that's where, like Greg was saying, it's not really forced. If you've lived in America for 20 years, and you've taken note to how some of the bigger companies allot their money in movies, not just comics and, entertainment period. TV shows have character lists that, I don't know if any other culture has the word token attached to it, where you can look at a cast of characters and say, oh, there's a token character. I don't know of any other culture that has that happening right now, but America has had it for years. And once you take note of that, it's really simple to say, well, I'm kind of tired of seeing a token character. What if I want to make a whole cast that is the opposite of what you've been showing me for the past 30 years of my life? Mm-hmm. It's not forcing me. I'm just saying I want to do it. So I would say it's definitely just taking note of what's around you and coming up with something unique.
As far as myself, as finding representations in comics for somebody that looks like me is pretty easy because I'm white. But at the same time, finding a person that looks like me as a person of size as well is incredibly hard. Like, the first time I saw Faith, I actually cried because it wasn't a big deal that she was larger. But as far as actually creating a space for myself within the industry, I don't really know if I would call it that for myself at least, but that's mostly because, you know, women are having an easier time, and at least white women are having an easier time getting more representation, and the people who are writing them and the people who are drawing them, that kind of stuff. That said, it's not perfect, but I guess when I'm working on Kamikaze, one of the things that I'm working on is making sure that I'm creating content that I care about and that I want to see within the world. And if other people aren't doing it, much like Marcus said, why not me? So there it is.
Yeah, my experience with Kamikaze has been interesting. And for those of you who are not familiar with Kamikaze, it is a comic series, a cyberpunk story that features a black woman as a protagonist. And I came on the team later, so like the characters were already created and designed and everything. I don't think it was a deliberate choice to make her a black woman, but you know, and that's kind of helped us focus on the story, the character development, developing her as a person, because we are all just people. But as we developed our fandom, we realized how important to people it was for her to be a protagonist, a female and a protagonist of color. And so I think it's been interesting having that unfold. Especially, it's unique for us because the team behind Kamikaze, you'll notice quite quickly that none of us are black, and then our protagonist is black. And we get a lot of questions for that, and sometimes some heat for that. We didn't intend, like, let's make a comic about a black character. She just came that way to us, and we're now seeing, wow, it's actually really resonant with people that she is a black woman, and I think it's really cool that it's so important to people.
Yeah, if there is one thing I'd talk about with Markeisha is that Markeisha is our main character. A lot of the fans who come up to me and who've read the book are always like, she's so relatable in a way that they don't really get to see themselves in a lot of comics. Like just 30 minutes ago, two sisters came up to me and they had bought a copy of the book on Free Comic Book Day. And they were telling me how this was the first time that they were at some kind of a doctor's office and the lights flicked out while they were walking down the hall. And both of them looked at each other and were like, neither of us are Markeisha. What do we do? And to just know that there's a moment where, you know, somebody can relate to a character so much that something random can happen. They could say, oh, that could be me. I mean, that's powerful.
I'd like to follow up on one of the statements that you just made, Havana and Carrie, and this question is to Greg and Marcus. You essentially stated that when you created a character who happened to be black. When you guys create your characters, how much blackness, do you get what I mean, goes into that character? I mean, do you understand what I mean? Culturally, how does the color of their skin develop the characters that you're writing?
You want to go first?
Yeah, I can say it's because we got the same question about, you know, why is the leader of the team a girl? But in regards of like how much thought we put into that, it really wasn't much thought.
Right.
For us, like I said, you've been in a culture where 5 white characters is the norm. It's normal.
Right.
No one ever says, well, this must be for white people only. You know, obviously this is directed to Caucasian people. No one says that in America because it's been the norm for over 50 plus years of television and entertainment and print and all that stuff. So suddenly if we switch that completely, we just, you know, 360 degrees, oh, it's 5 young, you know, melanated characters. Melanin is the stuff that's in your skin. You know, for people that don't know, it's just, yeah, we get, you know, it's amazing. Whoa, it's impactful, and unfortunately, it's the truth for
So-
a lot of people. But as far as
sorry.
how much culture, when it comes down to saying, do we want them to feel authentic,
Yep.
but yet do we want to stay away from stereotypes? Yeah, we think about that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but it's like really an organic process,
Correct.
right? So we're coming up with characters and writing backstories, and it's more so to give the story depth and this like richness to the story.
Right.
So when you start seeing their backgrounds, but we're not. We're regular. We
I
went
was
to
about to say.
college.
Right. Yeah.
We don't hit the stereotype. I'm
Yeah.
a single father. My kids live with me. My daughter just graduated today. Boom, boom. Marcus is a single father. You know, so this is what we've grown up with. We've grown up around regular black people.
Right.
You know, and so you see some of the caricatures, like, you know, the thugs and like all of that, but that's not our regular life. Like I tell people, I mentor kids, I tell them if there were, like, when you turn on the radio or you turn on, you know, the TV, if every black person was like what you see on TV, then we would all
They'd
all
kill
be
us
in
all,
jail.
yeah.
We would all be getting hunted down by the cops because, like, what they show you, that's not real, you know? So what we wanted to do is just, you know, bring it down a notch and make these people, like, relatable so all the real people in the world can relate to them.
And we looked at like shows. I was influenced by, you know, Avatar: The Last Airbender, the cartoon with Aang. You don't go into it saying, you know, they never said anything about their nationality, their you know, what ethnicity they were.
Right.
They said what tribe they're from. They said, you know, where their people are from. But it never was this caricature and or, you know, archetype, or I should say, you know, there wasn't anything that said, oh, you know what, that looks kind of like an Asian person, and they act like Asian people. That the whole story in that, those characters were just good characters. They were well written. Story kept us, you know, they were funny. Action was great. They were conflicted. They had all these human qualities. So with our cast, that's really the main focus. All of our characters, me and Greg talked about it in depth, and we're still building them as these new things come on top of it. But we don't say, well, we got to make sure they act black right here. You know, that's not our, we don't have those conversations. 'Cause
No. That's, you absolutely answered what I was wondering as far as the small touches, not the stereotypes for sure. Where essentially what I was saying is, are you creating characters that happen to be black, or are you creating specifically black characters or characters of color? That's essentially what I meant. So I would like to hear each of you individually, hear your thoughts about the short-lived diversity push, particularly from Marvel Comics. They rolled out a bunch of them in response to the whole need for diversity, and as quickly as they rolled out, most of the books didn't last a year. As a matter of fact, I kind of feel like we kind of hinted on that when we spoke about that rollout last year.
Yeah.
So yes, please.
To me, it's, you know, pretty par for the course. You see it in different mediums. They'll give a push, and then they'll come back and say, it didn't sell what we wanted it to sell, so we're going to cancel it. But they're not going to focus on certain things. We were just at the Glyph Awards in Philadelphia.
Philly, yeah.
We actually won a couple.
They won.
And
Top.
And, you know, there was, like, a lot of people talking, and so let's talk about Black Panther, for instance. There's a lot of people that weren't happy with the book.
Really?
Yeah, and I'm not in any position to try to smash or anything like that, but
Did they think Ta-Nehisi was too cerebral?
yeah, they said he didn't. You know, there's the stuff about it doesn't feel like a comic and all that good stuff. So regardless of the fact that they sold like crazy numbers
Yeah.
in the beginning, you know, the book, I think I bought every issue, but I think I stopped reading probably after like 8. So there's just that thing, like, did you get like the best people you could
Right.
to do these books, you know?
So you feel like pardon my French, the rollout was half-assed.
I mean, I guess I'm used to it. I'm used to
I hear you.
being pandered to,
Yeah.
to get that dollar out of me. So it's easy for me to see. Okay, we're gonna, instead of trickling in one or two here, let's just throw
Right.
50 black books at you at one time, and
So-
none of them stick because there's
Yeah.
so many of them. And
Do you think the oversaturation was part of the problem?
it could have been. It could have been, but then at the same time, there are black people. What we're seeing with Tuskegee Airs, there are people that aren't into comics that buy our comics. They don't care about comics, but they see it, something about it like hits them somewhere, and then they're like, I want to get it. And so we're seeing that. So we're selling in places where most comics wouldn't sell at all.
I think
I
our
don't
comic
know if
solved the
Marvel
problem,
did
though.
that.
Yeah, our comic. I think our comic specifically solves a problem. It solves a couple of problems. It's educating where other educators won't. It's actually something that is supposed to be a family book, like everybody can read it and enjoy it. There's very few books like that. Very few books that are saying no, your kids can read it, you can read it. There's stuff in it that you may not know as an adult, and your kids may not. So I think ours actually hits a lot of these areas that solve problems. I would say to it that it's, I've seen books, Spider-Man has come out, 3 or 4 times when they see a storyline that fans don't like.
Or
And-
sometimes that they do like the other. Shout out to Straczynski and the others.
Right. It's like, oh, that didn't work. You didn't like that? Okay, well, don't worry. We got a incredible, amazing Spider-Man coming out next week. And they'll just rehash the story or, revamp the story,
How many
tell it
times?
from a different perspective. They don't say, well, it didn't work, so we're getting rid of the whole book.
Forever.
Forever.
Yeah, how many times do we have to watch Uncle Ben die?
Exactly.
Right.
So,
Or Thomas and Martha Wayne die.
yeah. So I would personally, I wasn't excited about the direction of Power Man and Iron Fist. It's a nice book. The artwork looks great. All of that, interests me, but I wanted to see a different take, personally. I don't know what take would have excited me, because I didn't read Power Man or, I didn't read Luke Cage as a kid. I didn't read Iron Fist as a young person. So I'm not sure which story would really excite me. It's kind of the same thing with Superman. I didn't like Superman until Ed McGuinness started drawing it.
Okay.
But for some reason, he showed Lois Lane and Superman in pajamas and dealing with household problems. And I was like, you know what? This is interesting. I've
Right.
never seen this before. Weird. So, Clark has to go get turkey.
Right.
So
Clark, we need cat food.
right.
Honestly, I feel like these two kind of just got it. As far as the big two go, I've just sort of, like they're saying, it's par for the course. So you're sitting there, you see it come out and you're excited about it, but you're just waiting for the other shoe to drop. And I mean, you're also looking at who's on the teams. And it's not that you're sitting there saying, oh, there's no way these people could write that. It's just you've seen the work that they've done before. And so you're going, they did this lot one time, but then they're doing this. Like, okay, for example, I really was super excited for Ironheart. I don't really
Really?
want to spoil anything with Ironheart, but there's a point in the book where, in the very first issue, where you see this incredibly toxic representation of black gang violence happening. And it's like, how many times do I have to watch somebody who looks like my friend die to help the story go forward? Like, why can't that person be motivated by something that isn't their best friend lying on the granddad or something,
I'd blame The Wire.
Yeah. There is that. But I guess it's frustrating. And so when it comes to seeing what the big two are doing, no matter what, it's just, you're kind of sitting there hoping it gets better. But the indie scene is where it's at. If you want honest, genuine looks at, what people are like and how you've got, incredibly interesting stories that you're not going to see from the big two, you got to go indie. So go indie or go home. At least that's my kind of version. So
I think also, and like, I'm listening to Carrie and I'm kind of looking into myself and I'm thinking with Marvel and with DC, like, I honestly can admit I grew up loving them, especially Marvel. But at the end of the day, I already know it's business and that's going to supersede everything. So if they feel like, oh, there's a chance this Black Panther guy did really well in, this movie, so let's go ahead and give him and, while we're at it, let's sprinkle this one and sprinkle that one. And, there's a whole black nerd, thing happening right now, so maybe we can get some money out of them. And I truly feel like that's all it is. And I think, me personally, once I know what your intentions are, it's hard for me to, like, jump all the way in, you know what I mean?
So do you think the industry will essentially just reset back to the status quo, and in the meantime, in between time, to satisfy the need for diversity, will continue to get what I call the separate but equal heroes? And by separate but equal heroes, I mean you take the power set of a hero and you slap it a person of color on it. So a la Amadeus Cho or Ironheart or Sam Wilson as Captain America,
Yeah.
so on and so forth.
You have the
Jane
same-
Foster as Thor.
you have,
Those,
you have the same thing happening with women as well. So you'll
Yeah.
have like, it's called
Yeah.
the Miss Mister trope.
Uh-huh.
So you'll have like women that, you have Ironheart, but she's actually just a female version of Iron Man.
Right.
So it's sort of like, you're not only doing the quote unquote separate but equal, hero, as you were saying, but you're also, not giving that person the chance to be the hero that they should be and that they could be. Honestly, I would really just like to see heroes that I don't know the names of in comics, especially from the big two. I would like to see something new. And I'm so tired of seeing Uncle Ben die.
Yeah, and
And he keeps getting younger and younger. He's going to be like 5 years old.
Right.
Getting, like,
Cousin Ben.
nephew Ben.
my thoughts on the whole Marvel thing is I think Marvel's looking at the wrong thing. It's easy to blame the diversity problem on falling sales because
Or the
that's
president.
the different thing. But okay, think about it. Like the past few years, we've seen Marvel movies like become this giant behemoth. It's they somehow they know how to make great movies. At the very beginning, I think that brought in a lot of new, maybe like a new fan base that hasn't been always into comics, shifting their attention to Marvel comics. And I think as time goes on, Marvel movies is becoming less of a novelty. Sure, we'll still go. Like, we're excited to see Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, but now we're kind of expecting, all right, what's Marvel going to bring this year? It's not something novel anymore. It's not a surprise. And so I think there's going to be, where things rise, things are naturally going to fall. And I think the comic end of Marvel is seeing this decline and not looking at all the different factors that could be creating this decline. I think the diversity, like any change, good or bad, is going to be rough in the beginning because people don't like change. If they just stuck out with this diversity thing for a little longer, I think we could see some really positive things come out of it and some really interesting stories. I'm really disappointed that they're pulling the plug on that.
And I think I totally agree with you, but it has to be genuine, right?
Yes.
So like what we're doing, we might not make a dime off of it, but we're still grinding and pushing, right?
Yep.
It has to be genuine. If they're doing it simply because they feel like they're going to be able to make money and they don't truly care, because like I said, if they truly cared, they would have been doing this a long time ago.
It's like you have to find people that have the
I wanted
passion
to
for it.
No,
address
go ahead.
part of your question, though. Marvel's going to have a real issue because Black Panther is coming out in February.
Yeah, that's gonna
and
be
it's going to
the-
kick.
that
their
movie
jaw.
is
I'm not even
gonna
gonna say
be
it's
the
going
new,
to.
that's gonna be the new color purple.
right,
Every
because
black
you-
actor
But-
in Hollywood is trying to get on that movie.
Right, and you see who's doing
It's like,
it.
wait,
like
Black Panther, why are you singing Miss Seeley's Blues? I don't.
But the people,
Sister, you've been on my mind. Sorry, I'm done.
No, but you're right though. It's gonna be huge, and it's gonna like force them to go back and look at it again. Like, do we need to, maybe go do another run? Luke Cage broke Netflix. Like it
Right.
literally broke
yeah.
Netflix. So people want it. They're gonna have problems because it's like there's so much money to be made. Empire, people watch Empire. No offense to anybody that watches Empire, but people watch Empire.
I love Empire.
Right? So, I mean.
I know what I'm getting into. I love Empire. I know it.
Right. So, but you'll watch something good then. If you're
Absolutely.
going to watch Empire, you'll definitely.
I gotta watch like Queen Sugar is like a palate cleanser. But yeah, no, I go into it knowing this about to be some hood.
So yeah, they're gonna have a problem. They're gonna have to like reevaluate everything, and maybe they'll look into getting some. Maybe it's not the writers. Maybe it's the template that you're giving them. Me and Marcus could do some really good Black Panther stuff. If you guys want to contact anybody.
Well, that was going to be my next question. If they made a legitimate push to change the faces in the writers' room, do you think that would kind of help that organic push for people of color in the books?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think when it comes to any creative group, like I work in software, and I definitely see why it's really important to have a diverse group behind producing whatever it is you're producing. Like, for example, when they first came out with like voice command, like Siri and Alexa, one of the things they did not think about was what if you're, ESOL, like English is maybe not your first language, or maybe you have a thick accent. That there's a whole population that's in America that's blocked away from that service, and that's because there was no one to represent or even think that was an issue in these product teams, right? And I think the same with stories. Even if it doesn't result in different skin color or cultures or anything, like even diversity in personality and background and all that. I think that comes with a diverse creating.
I actually think it would help, but I will say that I also think there needs to be new voices. It's not just new faces, but not just the most famous face that happens to be whatever skin color you need, but new voices that have a unique perspective. Like, I mean, I like a lot of the stuff that Spike Lee does. I think it's interesting, but I don't think he needs to be the only writer that people go to,
Yep.
And so I feel like we just need to sort of not only diversify the people that we go to, but give new voices a chance. Like, please. I want to hear what, honestly, like, in doing animation, and what I do in animation, we pitch a lot, we talk to different producers and executives, and like they're still convinced anime isn't a thing. Like, they're so convinced. They're like, oh, it's just a fluke. My Little Pony was just a black swan event that never happened. Meanwhile, Hasbro's getting all that money. And they don't understand that for millennials, when we had cartoons growing up, we still tried to find cartoons after that point because we weren't childish. We just had a medium we loved, which is why anime came into the picture. And anime grew up with us as we got older because it was actually challenging us in not only our mental stimulation, but what we could understand. And it opened up an entire new world and culture to us. So I feel like it's, at least here in America, they're so scared of showing new voices or putting new voices in there because they're like, oh, but there's no money in that. And it's sort of like, well, who cares? This is something that's needed. You make money. You make so much money. You can't throw you can't throw like $5 million at somebody and say, go make a movie just to see what they can do.
I mean, that's why I love that Get Out was so
Yes.
successful. It's a new director. Now, granted, he does have a popular show on Comedy Central, but this was his first feature debut, and it broke box office records.
That was an anomaly. It will never happen again. I'm just playing the gatekeeper guy.
Right.
No, I'm sorry.
And you know, it featured relatively unknown actors, and people were interested in seeing it. Not just, you know, black audiences, but all kinds of people. Like, people were genuinely interested in the movie, and I think it proves that we don't have to play it safe and just play the white character each and every time. We don't have to rely on directors who have made a bunch of movies. As you said, new voices are important.
Bryan Singer.
Yeah.
Sorry.
We're thinking about
Sorry.
starting up a
I don't
mob
know
to go
why he
after
keeps
Bryan
getting
Singer.
the job, man. I just want
Him and like M. Night Shyamalan, the two of them, it's just like, what are you
got the next movie.
doing?
Just kidnap him in a sack.
Right.
Right.
Just hide him out until production's over.
You're just singing like kidnap Bryan Singer. To
And
kidnap
I was
Mr. Skinny
joking,
Bob.
Havana, like, but that's really what it is. It's like cognitive dissonance. It truly is. Like, you can make, like, black people alone, like, contribute so much to this pop culture that it's crazy. And we still have people that'll tell us, well, that was an anomaly. We don't know if that's going to continue. Michael Jackson, James Brown, Prince, like, all the way up. Like, forever. So it's almost like Marcus and I, we talk about it, like, you actually have to buy into some of these theories, some of these beliefs, and we just stopped buying into it. So you can't tell me, like, I already know. Like, I'm thinking about how to capitalize myself on this Black Panther movie. Like,
Color Purple, I'm
get some
telling you.
artists, and we gonna set up and. But yeah, you can't talk to me and tell me that you can't make it. How much was like Black Panther, that comic, when it first came out? They were killing.
Yeah,
They were killing. You know, so. You can't tell me that people don't want it, that you can't make money. That's bull to me. You don't want the narrative to be controlled by anybody but you. That's what it turns out to be. The people that are at the top, that they want to control all narrative. And
Now, is there a way, okay, piggybacking on what you were saying, talking about different instances in pop culture that were created and by people of color, and they were only embraced by the masses when they were cloaked in a white shell, as it were. You look at somebody like Elvis. You know, in that particular instance, you know, Chuck Berry was doing what Elvis was doing and better. Little Richard, we could go on and on. Little Walter, Howlin' Wolf, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And it wasn't until you look at Elvis and the Rolling Stones and those kinds of people that rock and roll was accepted by the masses. You look at, and it continues to this day. You know, you had your Vanilla Ice and Eminem and things of that nature. Is there a way to cloak it that way, to present it, to make it gain acceptance? And this is for everybody. Let's start on the other end with Havana first.
So when you mean cloak, like, I'm sorry, can you?
Is there a way to force feed representation in comics to the masses while disguising it?
I mean, to me, there isn't as much change as I would like to see in media, but I do see some change, and I think that's good. Slow progress is better than no progress at all. Cloaking it, though. See, for me, it's interesting because from an Asian American's perspective, our stuff's been cloaked all the time.
Yeah.
I mean, you see a lot of, I don't want to say hijacking, but a lot of like white celebrities, white characters in movies, kind of hijacking a lot of Asian cultures. And Netflix has a really bad habit of doing this.
Iron Fist.
I thought we agreed.
I mean,
not-
even-
I'm sorry, Greg.
Like,
We
I
didn't
made
agree.
it a point to like look at all of their original content, which I love. I love their original shows. But there's always gonna be one weird Orientalism thing that happens
Like
in the
in
show.
Kimmy Schmidt. Kimmy Schmidt, the second season of Kimmy Schmidt. There's this area where Titus, he's a black gay man who apparently has like this life, this
Oh,
past
the
life.
locomotive thing. Well,
Yeah.
that's comedy. I think
mean-
comedy has like a. That's yeah. There's definitely areas of gray in comedy, but like I'm talking about. All right, you're telling me there's two Asian people in Orange is the New Black, and one of them just happens to be caught because she was running an opium ring and she does weird tea stuff in her cell. Like, why does that have to be a thing? Why does she have to be this? Why does she have to be weird, like spooky and mysterious? My boyfriend and I, every time we see one of these tropes, we'll make fun of that. Ooh, mysteries of the Orient. Anyways, for me, I'm used to the cloaking, and I think it helps because it makes Asians seem cool. And I guess I benefit from that a little bit, even if it's in a cringy way. But I wish that it would kind of swing back and make a U-turn, and we need to see more Asian faces doing Asian things.
I'm gonna have to say that as a white person, I feel like I have no right to talk about that. So I'm gonna keep my mouth shut.
Coward. Don't be scared.
Hey, it's Jeremy.
Yes.
Yeah.
Hello, have a seat.
Panel.
I got this great badge on the back of my badge that says what panels I'm supposed to be at, and it says BOEF.
Yes, isn't that confusing?
Yeah, that's where we
The
are.
hall B,
Yeah.
there is no B0, just
No.
so you know. Sorry.
Is
Do
the
us a
village
favor
just
and go
lost?
ahead and introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Jeremy Whitley. I am very late. I write a comic called Princeless, as well as spinoff Raven the Pirate Princess and Marvel's Unstoppable Wasp. I have no idea where you guys are talking about currently on the panels.
They were talking about me being a coward.
Oh, I'm for that.
Awesome. I'm okay with that.
Well, we were going to talk about Frank. No, I'm kidding. We're not talking about Frank Cho at all. The question that we've asked, I've posed to the panel is, in instances in American pop culture, in order for certain fads and trends to be embraced by mainstream American culture, it has to be disguised and fed to them. Think trying to trick your kid into eating their vegetables by hiding them in the mashed potatoes, that kind of deal. And the examples that I gave were Americans didn't really accept rock and roll on a widespread level until Elvis Presley. Meanwhile, Chuck Berry and Ike Turner and the likes were doing their own thing. And that is a trend that has continued to this day up until hip hop with your M&Ms and Vanilla Ice and the things of that nature. Now, with that said, in order to get a push for more representation of people of color in comics, is there a way to disguise that so that you're able to feed it to the masses? You can
Okay.
white out. It's okay. You're like, nope, I'm white. I'm opting out.
let me preface any answer I give by, I am a white man who writes comics about people of color.
No.
Like, yeah, it's.
Stop talking. You have to leave.
I just got here.
It's okay, Jeremy. I'll go with you.
It's one of those things. To some extent, it is something that I think comics is and has been doing, hiding it in that, or at least, assigning those important stories about diversity to people like my coworker, Mr. Bendis, at Marvel, where there's a lot of they have these stories being told by prestigious white writers who, the companies trust, have stock in the company, and they sort of go that way with it. And then, unfortunately, I think when you're in that position, when you're the trusted white person that the company, is giving stuff to, you need to have some obligation to reach out first and foremost to people of color about what you're writing, because if you don't listen to the audience that your stuff is supposedly meant to represent, then you're not doing any kind of representation at all. You're just doing you. And then you should stick to your own thing if you don't want to hear what other people have to say. But then beyond that, I think there is, especially, with very successful, known writers, I think there is sort of a responsibility to draw attention to, other people who are coming up, who are doing their own thing, especially people of color, and, to make sure those voices get heard too, and not just be the one white guy who's speaking for all people of color in comics, because comics is a small community, and if you don't look out for, other people, and if you don't make sure that those own voices get heard, then, you're not doing your job.
Yeah, I'll actually add to that. One of the things that Havana and I and Alan do on Kamikaze is we have these little comics not little comics, they're short stories that we put out that are called wall tales, and one of the things that we really wanted to do with these was to highlight new artists, new writers, new talent, and either pair them with people who are really well known, or pair them with people who have, such an amazing talent that, we can go out there. So we're trying to use our ability and the brand that we have to help push people, basically help push people of color into the limelight, to give them a chance to say, this is something that is worthwhile, and this is something you should get excited about. And man, do people get excited about these short stories. Not only because they're well done, but because they have great characterization, and they're excited about the fact that we have, people of color or women writing these stories. I was actually talking to a friend of mine, Marcus, and I told him that our current wall tale that's actually online right now was written by a black woman, was drawn by a black man, and is colored by a black man. And he told me he burst into tears, and it's just that shouldn't be something that makes a grown man cry.
Right.
It
shouldn't be a big deal.
Yeah, it shouldn't be a big deal. I am white, I have a book, let me just turn around on the rung of my ladder and help pull somebody else up. Because if I'm not using my privilege to help somebody else out, like Jeremy was saying, I'm not doing my job,
Greg, Marcus, is there a way? Do you think there's a way to Elvis it?
I'm thinking deeply, man, and they've tried it for years.
I was gonna say here. Let me try this. Let me try this on. Okay, so the resurgence and rebranding of Luke Cage can be traced directly back to Brian Michael Bendis, that kind of thing. So is there some way, anything you can think of to kind of make characters of color more digestible for mainstream white audiences? While they're thinking, ladies and gentlemen, if you have any questions, we have a Q&A mic over here. If you'd like to ask any questions, feel free to line up.
Actually,
I would just say, I guess, I think it's been said a couple times that they've been, doing it.
Yeah.
Honestly, so the majority of white people, I've grown up, I had to live around a lot of white people. I lived in Idaho, some of the places. The majority of people, I don't even think they believe in some of these tropes. It plays on fears. It plays on, the stereotypes to get you to think that this guy he does love chicken. Never mind. It makes you think, that, we're the kind of dudes that don't take care of our kids, blah, 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 all that stuff. I don't think that the majority of white people even believe that. I hope not. If it's not relatable to anybody, it's not going to be relatable to anybody. So if you have a guy that's coming in trying to pander or, to any, I guess, what's the word I'm looking for? Because I don't. This doesn't have to be
guess-
long.
So
If it's not sincere, right?
Right.
Like
Honest.
if I'm looking at something, I can see, oh, he gave this guy dreadlocks so he can seem tough. You know, like if I see that kind of stuff right away, then it's like not sincere. Like once, and I think everybody has that meter on the inside. So that's when it becomes not digestible for anyone, you know. I don't know.
I
mean,
think-
my question would be, you know, what do you? They don't write Captain America to try to bring in black people, so I don't see why they would try to do that with a melanated person of color, character of color, superhero of color. Don't write them for that purpose. Don't try to,
That shouldn't
you
be
know,
the intent.
I'm gonna trap you guys into caring about a black guy today. Don't do that. Just write an interesting character with an interesting backstory, an interesting, you know, plight. Whatever's pushing that character should be interesting
Yeah.
to read and or follow.
I think a lot of it actually comes down to story. If
Yeah.
you're not telling a good story with well-rounded characters, with well-developed characters who you've actually
Shallow.
thought about.
Right.
Like, okay, I use this metaphor called the cardboard cutout person of color. So it's sort of like, I want to see a person within a character, you know, a character within a story to be three-dimensional. I don't want, like, you know, one of the cardboard cutouts that you just sort of pop up, you know, and go dee-dee-dee-dee-dee. Like, you don't want that in your comics. And in a lot of cases, that's what it comes down to. So if you're doing good character work, I don't think that's going to be, you're not tricking anybody into liking a person of color. You're just telling a good story.
Yeah.
And you're getting them to empathize.
I think that'll be successful for them. If I would read a book about a brand new superhero that's interesting, has layers, has a great, you know, villain. I really like villains.
I think Kamala Khan is a great example of it working because, like, the thing about Kamala isn't, like, there are all these aspects to her that are foreign to some of the people reading comics. That, you know, she is from a Pakistani American immigrant family, that she is Muslim. Like, these are things that, you know, a large portion of the comics reading, like, that general comics reading audience doesn't necessarily relate to, but she is a well filled out character with interests and quirks and weirdness about her that, like, she hits the same notes that people love about Spider-Man. That, like, she is a nerdy kid who loves comics or loves superheroes, and, like, who doesn't relate to that in this room? Like, you know?
I love that
That's-
she writes fan fiction about Wolverine.
Yeah.
Okay, so last question from me, and then we're going to take some questions from the audience. Are there any instances that you see where the industry, either in the medium of comics or animation or anything of that nature, where they're doing it right?
Yeah, I loved Young Justice, man.
Yeah.
Loved Young Justice. That was
Yeah.
I watched it. The first couple of episodes, I was like, You know, and I'm waiting for this cliche kind of, you know, topical Ben 10 kind of spin.
Yeah.
And I was just like, well, hold on now. This is actually getting good. All right, I didn't think they'd go this direct. What now? And it's like by the time you're at the, you know, towards the middle of this thing, it's this really, really well thought out concept. The characters don't feel slapped on as much.
Right.
So animation-wise, that absolutely, everybody that was crying for season 3, that was on purpose. That was like fans saying, hey, wait, stupid, don't stop doing good stuff, stupid. Do more of that.
Right.
You know, and they're like, I don't know if we want to make enough. We don't like money. So.
And then Netflix
yeah,
bought it.
Yeah, that was a good example of, they did a good thing, and they were like, and we don't know if we want to make more of it. So.
The first half of Luke Cage, they were
Yeah.
doing
Oh,
it right.
yeah.
Yeah, first
Until they
half.
killed Cottonmouth and then.
Yeah, killing him was the worst idea ever.
I was like, he's gonna come back. I know he's got some kind of. He's gonna come back.
Something.
And
There'll
he
be a
just
clone
never
or
came
something.
back.
Please.
Next thing you know, he's winning Oscars and stuff. and
Yeah,
not
he's
coming back to
never
work.
coming back.
I've always been a fan of, I've always pronounced it Kamala, but is it Kamala? I don't know. Well, I guess I'm a bad fan. But I've
I think
always,
it depends where you're from.
yeah, okay. So I guess I'm from the South, so it's Kamala where I'm from. But I love Kamala Khan simply for the fact that my mother is a dyed-in-the-wool, you know, super Baptist Christian, and she read the first trade of Kamala Khan because my little brother loved it so much, and was like, "Wow, I didn't know this about Muslims." And it's just like the fact that my mother, who at one point thought that Islam was like the devil's religion or something, could actually relate to a Muslim because of a comic. That's powerful stuff, and I think that they're doing a very good job with that.
Nafua is here now.
I see.
This is
Yes,
Nafua
we have
Richardson.
another panelist. Panelist, please introduce yourself.
Hello, sorry I'm late. My name is Afua Richardson. I am a comic book illustrator and a couple of other backslashes. I've worked on Attack on Titan, Black Panther: World of Wakanda, X-Men '92, and a book under Top Cow called Genius.
Excellent. All right, so we're going to take a few questions from the audience.
Hello, everyone. My name is Kwame. So we talked about the seven equal heroes.
Yes.
I missed that. It was changing Iron Man to a black woman, or changing Spider-Man to black.
Or Asian Superman, or et cetera, et cetera.
My question is how do you guys feel about the opposite of that? And that is in rejuvenating a lot of these stereotypical characters that were created in the past, changing them to something else in order to make it authentic. And the three examples I want to bring up were the Ancient One and
Dr. Strange.
Dr. Strange.
Worked out great.
the Mandarin and Shades from
Okay.
Okay.
So you're asking what exactly how?
I'm asking,
Reverse,
do you think
like-
that's an effective method? Do you think it's positive? Do you think it's negative? I personally would have liked to have seen some Asian villains just done with more depth. I don't know you all's opinion on how you want to approach that.
I've said this a number of times. I understand there's a side of the coin that says, hey, man, it's just good to have, get that black actor a chance to, be in a high-budget movie. I don't care about that. Just create a new character, man. Don't make, Shield guy,
Nick
Nick
Fury?
Fury. I was one of the people that was like, I want to see Nick Fury from the comic with the white streak in his hair, the old guy with a patch. That's Nick Fury. That's who I've seen all my life. And make him black. Oh, that's great. He's gonna yell and let's get Samuel L. Jackson. He's definitely gonna sound black. So I'm not a fan of that. The whole Fantastic Four thing. It's just ridiculous to me. As someone who's a fan of these stories, for some people it's like, oh no, but it's a good chance for him to be on a movie. Make a new character. I don't care if they would have said, no, the other Johnny Storm guy died. This is Joseph.
Joseph Storm.
His flames are blue. Cool,
think-
man, that's dope. All right, let's talk about Joseph. Is he a good character for the Fantastic Four? Let's just change Johnny Storm to black. See
I
what
think-
happens. I don't like that. I don't think it's an effective strategy. Especially because it's what I mentioned Bryan Singer earlier, y'all. It's to me that's a
Bryan
Bryan
Singer.
Singer take on stuff, which is I don't care about the source material. I don't care about what the fans think. I'm gonna just do what I want to do as a director, put my mark on it. I'm gonna call this character instead of Aang. Okay, with the Avatar movie, and they just you're belittling the fans that have come to fall in love with these fictional characters. Who cares if they're fictional? They mean a lot to those people. Don't do that. Create somebody new. If you want to put that stamp and just say, I'm going to introduce something new. I'm going to make a protagonist that is similar to that guy or a hero that's similar to that guy, but totally different.
Yeah, I think the answer, like to your question, the answer to problems with like Yellowface in the case of Mandarin specifically, like he is a yellow peril villain all the way. Like the answer to fixing that, and especially the Ancient One, the answer to poor Asian representation is not taking all the Asian people out of the story. Like that doesn't work.
Yeah, that was,
like you can make a better version of that character without having to make them white. Like you can fix it. Like I'm personally kind of a fan of the twist in Iron Man 3, partially because like Mandarin is just like that character is so steeped in like Fu Manchus and like really gross stereotypes. Like, but like, yeah, Ancient One has a bad idea, and that worked out great for them, didn't it? Like they were so worried about people being mad about poor Asian representation, so they took that character and made them a white woman, and that, like, everybody was happy with that. I didn't hear any complaints, right? Like,
Really?
nobody heard anybody.
You weren't listening.
I'm being sarcastic. Like, yeah, that was
Heard one.
that backfired more than anything. That was terrible. So you know, I think if they had gone out of their way to do it better, rather than like reworking it, then you know, I think that's much easier to do than like I personally do have a problem with like the existing Iron Fist is being like the TV series, and that's partially because like that you know, he was originally built in that era when like they're like, okay, we want to have some Asian characters, so we have to have a white main character. That's the only way to do it because that was the only way that comic book was getting published. And you know, it is possible, I think, to update the character of Danny Rand. He can still be Danny Rand and be like a Chinese American dude. Like, you know, I think that's perfectly doable. I don't like. I have plenty of Asian American friends who feel just as out of place in, you know, when they visit Asia as, you know, any white person does. Like, in fact, maybe more because like other people expect them to, you know, speak the language and they don't. So like, I don't think that's. I think that is a case where, you know, something could have been fixed, but they've chosen to fix the things that probably didn't need to be fixed.
Maybe my perspective is a minority, but I don't care. In that, it's their characters. If they're going to switch them up and it's a bad idea, let them. It's an opportunity. If there aren't enough Asian characters that tell a story, we're creators, we can make them. Or we can represent the ones that we do like. Marvel has had these characters for so long that they're no longer just characters. They're icons. They're ideas. They're gods. Like, what is Batman? He's Hades. He's the guardian of the underworld. He never leaves Gotham, even though he's a millionaire. Superman is like Jesus. He's 33 years old, powered by the sun. Kal-El loved his only son, so he sent him there. You know, it's the same kind of iconography. So people invest in these things in such a primal way that when there's a change to it, it's almost insulting someone's sensibilities. So they've been around for so long that even when they create new characters, they're pale in comparison to this giant. And that's also kind of at the fault of the fans because they gravitate towards those characters instead of supporting indie books, which can be just as great and just as iconic.
See,
I'll just shout.
Well, yeah, no,
There you go.
Oh, just one note before we continue. Unfortunately, Carrie and I have to go off to another
I was about to say
panel.
we have actually
Thank you so much.
We've come to the end of our panel, ladies and gentlemen. All the people that had questions, I apologize, but thank you to all of our panelists here. Please clap it up for yourselves for being here as well.
And we're all out in Artist Alley, so if you do have any questions you want to ask, just come talk to us. We're people.
yeah, I was
We're
about to say,
literally all sitting like
They're all like,
in
if
the
you go
same
down to
vicinity.
if you go down to the artist row, like they're all near Kamikaze's right across from them, and so on and so forth. Thank you guys for coming.
thank you.
Yeah, this little.
So helpful. I didn't know
By
this
30.
room was.
Yeah,
regular room.
BOEF. I was like, I was over in B, hall B. I was like,
Building a creative team. Cool. Thank you, sir. Make it to the- Yes, sir.